You're listening to the Happy Workaholic podcast. I'm your host, Kellyanne Gorman. This show was once about business, LinkedIn, and my life with an autoimmune disease. And then one day I found out I was misdiagnosed, so I had to switch things up a bit. Life is so short, and when you're given a second chance, you better believe I'm going to take it, celebrate it, and share it with you. I'm on a mission to help women take their business and life to that next level they deserve to be at. This show is intended to elevate your mind, upgrade your business, enhance your life, and become part of a positive and uplifting community. Inspiration, motivation, and determination are what got me to where I am today, and I cannot wait to share these amazing stories of other female entrepreneurs who will be featured on the show. If you have a story or brand you want to share, send me a message on Facebook and Instagram today. You can find me at The Happy Workaholic. I would love to connect with you. Do you want a live chat during this episode? Make sure you're listening on iHeartRadio. I'm here to remind you to work hard, stay humble, follow your dreams, and never, ever give up. Thanks for taking the time to subscribe to the Happy Workaholic podcast. And now let's get into today's show. Are you someone who enjoys a schedule? Are you obsessed with that new planner of yours? Do you love the feeling at the end of the day when your to-do list is checked off? Maybe you're ready to get super focused in your home and work life. Well, my friends, I have just the gift for you. I've created some business, mindset, and organizational tools that are available for you today. Simply visit thehappyworkaholic.com and sign up to receive my weekly newsletter. Once you confirm your email, those tools are sent your way, as well as a link for you to join my exclusive Facebook group, The Happy Workaholic Network. This is a community for women who want it all and deserve it all. It's a place for you to meet others just like you, to share what you have going on in your everyday life. New business, new baby, new recipes, new workouts, and so much more. It's all allowed because, as I always say, sharing is caring. The Happy Workaholic Network is also the home for the conversations to continue after each episode of the Happy Workaholic podcast. If this sounds like something that you want to become a part of, then join us today. I cannot wait to see you in the group. And don't forget to tag me on Facebook and Instagram at The Happy Workaholic when using your tool so I can share your work on my stories. Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Welcome back to the Happy Workaholic podcast. Today is another special edition. It's a Wednesday, so you know what that means. It is part of the I Chose This Life series, today's episode. And today I want to introduce you to my great friend, Veronica. And as somebody that's in the digital space and an online entrepreneur, you always come across these other female bosses and you just need to be friends with them. So I think that's how I met Veronica, because I was like, we need to be friends. So, yeah, Veronica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And you're so right. I think that is how we met. We kind of, we're just interacting. I think we were both in the same like Facebook group kind of thing. And we were both interacting with one another. And we're just like, and we got on the phone like once, and I'm like, oh my God, why is this person like not in my life? And we need to be best friends. So we decided that right away.
Of course.
And, I'm still glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. So obviously this series is all about why you chose a career you're in. I want you to share your journey, your struggles, your triumphs, and all of that. But to get started, please introduce yourself. What are you known for online? What is your favorite thing to do? Your professional title? Give it to us. We need the juice.
Okay, cool. So I am the founder of Amarante Communications, and what that is a social media marketing firm. And essentially what I do is I help businesses and, entrepreneurs develop a social media strategy and deploy it and go back and measure what the results are and sort of stand out online. And, I don't want to say I fell into it because it didn't sort of work out that way, but I started my career very young, and I don't want to date myself, but, I started when I was 18 years old. I moved to New York City by myself. And, I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, but, I went to high school in Florida, and then I moved to New York when I graduated high school. And I knew I wanted to do something big, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And, I ended up meeting people from the music industry, and I did not know at the time that you could make a career, in the music business, without having to be a singer or, play an instrument or something of that nature. So then I discovered, the fact that you could be in the music business doing something like, on the business side, specifically, in marketing. But most interesting to me was that there was this entire role in this entire department at record companies where your job was to get records played on the radio. So that was my job for over 12 years. I got records played on the radio for different record companies, and I got to work with some amazing people and amazing celebrities and artists and just like geniuses. And that's where my marketing career began. And so I used to work with radio station programmers and different DJs to play my records. And so that's where I learned how to brand and about marketing and repetition and, promoting a brand and sort of taking something that no one knows about into something that's like a household name. So, it was really fun. And that, again, and I did that for 12 years. I grew up in the music business as a professional. Again, I started when I was 18, and, I left when I was 31. So it really just shaped me as a professional. And so when I left the music business, I decided to come back to Florida. I spent 6 years in New York, 6 years in LA, and I decided to be, near my family and my mom, at the time. So I returned to Florida. I left the business because I had no personal life whatsoever. And after I left, I had this huge regret and sort of had an identity crisis, because how do you follow that up? Like, what do you do after you work in the music business and you're like flying private jets and you are like working for GC and that's like your boss, and you were just having a conversation with Beyonce, like, that was like real life and that was my job. So how do you sort of follow that up? And so I put a lot of pressure on myself to do something amazing. But even when I was in the music business, I felt like we were getting really stressed out, and we took what we did very serious. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel that we were doing anything really meaningful, even though we know the impact that music has in people's lives, and we know how important it is. I didn't feel like we were doing something that was really all that significant, right? So when I left the music business, I came here to Florida. I started learning a little bit about, addiction recovery through, experiences that were near to me and through my own experience. And I was watching that show Intervention, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to do interventions. I want to do that, right? So I started working in the addiction treatment field at the time, and I thought I wanted to be a therapist, and I wanted to help people and help them, overcome their challenges. But I realized that by the time I got like my certification to be, a Florida licensed, counselor, that I could not deal with that population. Like, it was a lot of work. And to this day, like, I give it up to therapists because I don't know how they like get to listen to people's problems and not take that home with them, or how they don't, get so emotionally attached. So props to them. But I
And they're
realized that I
always
wanted to
so
go
busy
into
too. Because I know I can't even see mine every week. I'm every other week.
yeah,
They're
and
always
like
so
I was,
booked.
yeah, they're always so booked, and they see people back to back, and people are like going through so much, and
Oh
then it's
my
like, how do
God.
they not take that home? Like, how do you not get emotionally like involved, and how do you like not wonder like what's going on with that person when you're off of work? So like,
Forever,
I did
yeah.
not have like. Yeah, like I was like, there's no way I can do this. I need to go back to, what I know how to do, which is marketing. However, at the time, because I wasn't doing something creative, I had started my own blog. This was, circa 2010. So at the time, there was a lot of fashion blogging going on, but I wanted my fashion blog to be different. I didn't want it to be like outfits or anything like that. I went around consignment shops near, my area, and would find really special pieces and blog about them, and just like, resell, and like amazing like vintage pieces, or just fashion is something that I've always been into. And I actually, when I moved to New York, I thought I was going to go to Parsons, which, looking back on it, it's a little, insane, the fact that I moved to New York prior to applying to Parsons or anything. But like, so yeah, that didn't, happen. But so fashion was always a thing for me. So I'm like, I'm going to start a fashion blog. But what that blog allowed me to do, and I remember people used to ask me, like, why are you doing this? You're not making any money. I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing it. I just love it. It's a creative outlet for me, but I just know I have to do it. And what that blog taught me is how to drive traffic to websites using social media. And I didn't know at the time how that would change my life. So one of the things that I would just want to say, like right now, is like, if you don't know why you're doing something you love right now, don't feel like you need to have it figured out, or you need to have that answer, because the answer will reveal itself. Just follow your heart and follow like your gut instinct, because eventually like it will like make sense. Because for me at the time, like I didn't know why I was doing that. I just knew it was something I had to do. And I'm glad, like, despite, the objections or what people had to say about it, I continue to do it, but again, I had no idea how that would be, how I learned how to do what I do today. So, then a few stores that I was, going to photograph asked me to start managing their Facebook pages. And that's sort of how I started doing social media professionally. And those were my first clients. But then I needed a full time job. I couldn't survive with the money that I was making, from doing that. So I decided to start applying for full time social media management jobs. And for the first time with social media, I felt that I could follow what I did in the music business, because my job before was to get records played on the radio. So I had to go to a radio station, to a program director, and say, can you please play this song? Well, here I am dealing with social media and different media platforms, but I no longer have to ask for permission. I get to dictate how much, something gets mentioned or something gets played, right? Like now I'm the program director. So I've always viewed, a social media channel in the same way that a program director is someone who creates and has to produce content, and put it out there for the masses, in sort of the same way that I'm creating this sort of experience for them, and that I'm programming, this quote unquote radio station, but instead it's a social media account. So for me, like it was such an easy transition, and it made sense because I knew the principles of how a record would become familiar, which was repetition, education about who the artist was, exposure, mentions, community, doing events and things that, how we used to break records was something that I could like now bring to social media. And so, I decided to get a full time job, and I started applying for different jobs, and it just so happened that, the people who called me back and offered me a full time social media management job was an addiction treatment center, which, you wouldn't think that rehab places, need social media managers, but, this was a thing, right? And so they ended up hiring me. And to make a long story short, and not to take up all the time in your first question, I worked my way up in that industry from social media manager all the way to, director of social media at another company. Then eventually I moved to another company who made me their director of marketing. And now I was not only overseeing social media, but then I was overseeing all of our digital marketing and traditional marketing strategy, everything from like, traditional media like ads, to creating stuff for conferences, to doing all the digital stuff. So that last experience and that last position really gave me an opportunity to become a little bit more well-rounded. And so I it's funny that the name is I chose this life because I sometimes don't feel like I did, even though I know I chose the life I've lived today. I kind of don't feel like I did, right? Because the last job that I had, it was I got laid off in September of 2017. And so I've been out on my own and with my own business for like about, a little over a year. But it all started from a layoff, and at the time I thought I was just going to go into another director of marketing position. But then I noticed that all the projects and all the opportunities that were coming up were sort of freelance, and so I had to form a company, and I had to go out on my own. So it kind of, the opportunity came up, and the most amazing thing happened. It was just the fact that I had built such a great reputation for myself, in that industry, that I didn't need to do any marketing. I already had clients. I remember I started my own business in October, and it wasn't until like March of the following year that like my website went live, and then I started doing marketing. So I was really, really lucky because I didn't have to do a lot of marketing to already have management clients and social media clients, because they already were familiar with my work. And so to me, it was very interesting that I stayed within the mental health field, because that was never really the intention, but that's where I felt I was needed. And I started to take it really serious, because I know that like that Facebook post could change someone's lives. That Facebook, conversation or that connection could save someone's life. And so what I started to take what I did a little bit more serious, and started to bring that sort of and I've always took it serious, when I worked for someone else, but when I was working for myself, I understood almost how sacred, what I was doing was, and the fact that I was really tapped into that community and knew what the needs were, not just of my employers or like the clients, but the need of that community and what's going on with the opioid crisis right now, and just
Mm-hmm.
all of the issues that we have as a nation. I became so familiar with all the different audience populations that we have, within that industry, that it just became second nature. And so even now, as we're having this conversation, I've explored different clients and different industries, but I understand how valuable and important the work that I'm doing right now is. So because for a while, like it's not, it wasn't sexy or glamorous to work, in mental health, and it's not that I was like ashamed of it, but it was nothing for me to brag about. But it's been recent that I understood just how important it was to work for this field and for this cause, versus working for something that was glamorous, or something that was sexier or whatever, just more fun. And so for a while I struggled with that, but now I realize like how important that is. So that was a super long answer to your question, but that's sort of like how I got here.
No, but I love that you just shared all of that, and we're so similar in so many ways, but I just really loved the fact that you said like you never really know like why you're doing something at that time, but it's just like fueling you up for like what's to come, you know?
Yeah.
So it's so funny that you said that, because just yesterday, or was it the day before? Yeah, it was 2 days ago, because I was home putting on my makeup. Yesterday I did it in the car. So it was 2 days ago, and I'm putting on my makeup and I'm like, I don't know, something just, it was like, you just get like smacked across the face with a thought, and something's like in your mind right away. And I'm in my bathroom, I'm in the mirror, putting on my makeup, and I'm like, why was I a makeup artist for 16 years? Why? Because now I know how to present myself, like do my hair and makeup and like look good. Because now I'm like really pushing a lot of my marketing with video to promote my podcast and like everything I have to offer with my business. And I need to look like I'm put together. And then why did I work in all the restaurants, and why did I work on yachts and jets and all of that? Because I needed to understand all aspects of service so that I could put my own program together and make sure that I provide the best service possible when it comes to dealing with all types of personalities and clients. So I think I've got that down, but like, I didn't know why the hell I was doing those jobs. I mean, I went to art school half my life. That's kind of how I fell into makeup because I loved doing it. But like how I got into the service industry, like working in high profile jobs like you, and like you don't know because that's your life at the time and you don't know anything else. And I too, like when I left like a bubble of working for high profile families, I too like kind of had a little crisis, like, wait, so I'm not like with my black Amex anymore, and I don't have a car, and I don't have like, what is this new life like? And I'm like, I'm free. I can do whatever I want.
It's such a hard lesson on identity, and
Such a
I sort of
lesson.
don't wish that crisis on anyone because we sort of, especially the younger that you are, for me, like that was my identity. That's who I was, and clearly, like we're not, what we do. We're so much more than that. But my identity, I put so much value in like me being a record executive that that was my identity at the time, and it wasn't. It was just my job, But for me, it cost me a lot of tears, and it was really painful. And I didn't understand why I spent and sacrificed so much to work in the music business to
Mm-hmm.
then just like not do it anymore. And I didn't understand. But looking back on it today, I can say like I never, got to go to college, because I started working for record companies right
Exactly.
away. And, I kind of wasn't thinking about it, but I was like hiring college interns, to help me. So I'm like, why would I go to college? But that was my college, that was my business school. That was, my marketing education, which, was real life experience. And as we know now, that's just so much more valuable sometimes. I know that, education is important and foundation is important, but for someone like me who didn't, have time to go to college, is just, you just never know what any given experience is teaching you at the time and how that's gonna add value to any opportunity that you may have in the future. So to anyone listening, it just, if you're questioning like what you're doing and why you're doing that, just follow your heart. You just never know like what that's going to turn into in the future.
And that one experience can completely change your life. Like in any, you just never know. And I just love that you just said all that. Now that you're on your own, and you're running your own empire online, what do you think your biggest obstacle has been, like from like transitioning? Now you're the
So
boss.
yeah, so number one, it was getting out of the employee mentality and into the CEO
Mm-hmm.
mentality. And so because especially, up until like very recent, I was doing a lot of the stuff myself instead of outsourcing, and not because, I couldn't afford to outsource or I couldn't afford to get help. I just, it's so personal to me, because I'm basically, so when clients hire me, they're not, just hiring me for my skills. They're hiring me for my experience, for my talent, for what I'm going to bring to the table. So I feel sometimes that I can't replace that. I have to be able to deliver that myself. So one of the obstacles that I had was being a business person
Mm-hmm.
and understanding business and running my company as a real business instead of running it as a job, and just showing up to do a job and not making the decisions that I needed to make as a business owner. Another obstacle was that I never ever ever, like if you would have asked me, I never wanted to go out on my own. And I got approached numerous times and, was always told that you should start your own company. Even when I was in the music business, I was, asked to do this. And I was like, absolutely not. I love getting a check every 2 weeks. I love having my benefits. I do not want that responsibility. and I do not want to chase people for money. Well, I was wrong. You don't have to chase people for money either when you have your own business. If you have a proper process and you have your procedure, and you have your stuff resolved up front, you don't have to chase people for money. So again, overcoming all the stories I had sort of told myself throughout the years was one of my biggest challenges. And still right now, sort of transitioning into more of a CEO instead of the employee. I'm still working on that and putting together processes and sort of removing myself from some of the tasks. But I'm also very hands on, and I love what I do. And I realized that the other day, I love creating content. I love, creating captions for social media posts. I love being in that creative place of just writing the copy for an ad and just sort of coming up with the image. Like, I love getting lost in that, and hours could go by. So I'm very torn, because that's like, doing some of the tasks that I need to outsource is what I love about my job. But then I also realize the importance of having to somewhat remove myself from some of the things that someone else could be doing. And not at the expense of the client, but just sort of, making the right decisions so that I can scale.
I love that. And I feel the same way when I'm writing scripts for clients, like intros and outros and their own podcasts. And I never thought I'd be writing content for people. Like, I thought I was the worst writer. I still think I am. And I'm like, this is awful. And then I'll get feedback and there's no edits. And I'm like, what the hell? But I feel like I really enjoy the process because there's an end result, because I'm putting together words on paper or in a Word doc, really. And then I'm adding music, and then I'm adding a voice. So it's like the package at the end, like, everything is done at the end of the day. Like, it's all come together, and then you have this like unique presentation or this like piece of a podcast. And like, it's just that I love like processes, not really like procedures, because I hate that stuff. But I just enjoy like the process of it. But I never thought that I would be producing podcasts and writing content. But like, that's the fire that I have right now, like in my gut. And I'm like, who knows? Like, maybe I'll be somewhere else. And this is why I needed this experience now. But like, I effing love this. And I just like love doing it for other people. And I feel like, life is so short. Like, we just have to go with like what we're really loving at the moment. And I just like, this week, I've just been going harder than normal. And I've been getting up super early, and I've been working till like 12, 1 in the morning. And I honestly cannot remember the last time I felt, one, happy, and two, like motivated, and like I was still excited at like 12:01 a.m. Like, shit, I'm still pushing out content right now. Like, I felt so good about it. But like, what is something that motivates you? Like, is it a person, or is it what's your biggest motivator that gets you up in the morning? Obviously, like, you love what you do, but like, is there a certain person? Is there like one thing?
Well, number one is my family. Like, basically, I'm the main, in my household. The agency, thankfully, brings in the most money. But being able to support my family is my number one motivation, because coming from the Latino culture, that's sort of like a thing that's in our DNA, where we have to take care of our parents and stuff. And I remember I left to go to New York because I felt like I didn't have time to go to school and take 4 years, to get this education, because I felt I needed to help support my mom now. So it's always been about, being able to support my mom and take care of her. And so my family would be my number one motivation. But number two, is definitely thinking about the fact that if a post doesn't reach someone, that post can make the difference on whether or not they get help or they get support. And this is not just, for someone who is in active addiction. This could be a loved one, like a family member, which is the worst position you can be in, to watch somebody who you love suffer from addiction. So I also think that's also a big motivation, just knowing that one post can change someone's life, or can help make someone feel like someone knows what I'm going through, or I'm not alone, especially because there's so much shame and stigma around addiction. People feel really alone, or they can't talk about their neighbors or their other family members about what they're going through, whether they're the person in active addiction or a loved one. There's still a lot of shame and stigma around it. So being able to provide content for that is really, really, like I said, almost sacred to me. And again, for a long, long time, I didn't realize the value of that. And I mean, I knew there was value to it, but I didn't think of it like I think of it now, and understand like how important that is, especially today, like as we deal with this crisis. And again, we live in a world of appearances, and I just didn't think that that was like so, again, glamorous or whatever to be doing. But I realized that like I'm really good at it, and I understand that population really, really good. And it's just something that, like, again, I just value so much, and it's taken me a long time to embrace it the way that I do today. So that motivates me, the fact that the work that I'm doing can change someone's life, and not just my family by being able to provide for them, but again, the information that I am providing can, shift, and it can even, determine whether or not someone lives or dies, So like when you think about like the levels of how that can affect someone, it's really like, whoa,
Yeah,
so
that's a
that's
lot of
definitely,
pressure.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's not a lot of people who do what I do. And, probably like the only one who like, specializes in like social media in this space. I know that there's other agencies who probably offer that service, who work in this industry, but there's nobody that does what I do. And, one of the things that has helped me is the fact that I did take that training to become, an addictions counselor. So I know what's appropriate to say, what's not appropriate to say. And I took, all that training, but then I also have the social media savvy to be able to get that message across. So it's a really unique blend. And again, another example of how you never know
Why
how
you're
the things
there.
you're focusing on today will have an impact on you later. So even though I didn't wind up becoming an addictions counselor, it brought something more to me being, a social media professional in this space. Like it definitely brought more credibility, and obviously just like ethics to, what I do. It's not just marketing, it's also knowing all the other stuff, the clinical side behind it as well.
And I feel like, especially in that industry, it's so important because you really need to know and understand, like 100%, the verbiage that's needed for something like that.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's something that, I wanted to say, that it has, so we have like different populations. There's people who are in recovery, and again, people who are just, the public, who are not aware that, addiction is a disease, and are not aware of things that are going on. And that industry has its own lingo. People who are in recovery and this 12-step fellowships or different kind of programs, it has its own lingo, it has its own culture almost. So you do have to be really careful about, how you speak, and the things that you say, and who you may offend, and what you're mindful of. So yeah, absolutely, you need to be aware of all those things to be able to do what I do. And that's why it's also so hard for me to find, help, because not everyone can go ahead and just step into that role. Yes, anybody can put up a Facebook post, but you need somebody who has additional insight, and who knows how this industry works a little bit, to be able to do it. So that's also been, somewhat of a challenge when we talk about hiring and upskilling and bringing on a team has been finding people who know about this and who are also, social media savvy. So that has proven to be a challenge. But I find that, like, if one person is at least really good at one of them, I can train them on the rest, but I just can't train them on both,
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's again another really long answer to your question of like what
I love your long answers, and I'm sure everybody that's listening like really appreciates everything that you're saying because they're getting a lot of expertise and knowledge.
But I'm like dragging it on.
It's good. This is what we want. So when you're obviously not working, like the 5 minutes of the day, like all of us, like what do you do? First of all, like what kind of schedule do you set for like every day? Like when you're in your office, like when is go time? And then like what are your favorite things you like to do when it comes to self-care and downtime and working out and all that fun stuff?
So I don't have a set schedule, and I wanted to be that. I want to be the person
Yeah.
that has schedule and who has like this super like a really good like balance and self-care, but I'm not there yet. But that's okay. It is what it is. But like it all depends on the day as far as the schedule is concerned. Like if I have a call at 9 a.m., clearly my day is starting, a little earlier. But I find myself being most productive in the evenings. So I normally, don't get started until noon unless there's something I have to, do or, whatever. But I like taking breaks. I think that's like really important, especially when you're sitting in front of a computer.
Yes, and I never used to agree with that, but now like 500%. I have to take
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah, no, you do. And I mean, if I'm in the middle of like a creative like flow or like I'm jamming, like I'm not gonna interrupt that. But if I'm in between tasks, I try to like go take a walk outside and sort of be in nature, just like go look at the trees and not look at computer screen. As far as self care is concerned, I completely disconnect on the weekends, and which is horrible because again, you think that as a social media person, I'd be like super active on my own social media, but unfortunately and fortunately, I put my clients' needs first. So
Mhm.
by the time I'm done publishing for them and kind of creating content for them, the last thing I want to do is go on my own Instagram or whatever and post for myself. So I try to not open my computer on the weekends. Again, that doesn't always happen if there's stuff going on, but the ideal weekend would be a weekend where I don't even open my computer and completely like unplug. Working out has been something that I started doing in October after I hit a workaholic bottom.
Ugh.
So I took on, I take on more and we're similar in this way that we take on a lot and
Yes.
we overwork ourselves and we we're just always overdoing it, right? So I was doing that, and I it started to affect my mental health, and I became really stressed out. This was around September, and I remember I was at the time launching I did a live workshop with my friend Jen Plosick, who's a Facebook ads expert, and we did a live workshop. And around that time, getting ready for that launch, between the launch and between managing all my clients, I became really burned out, and it was the kind of burned out where you're like burnt out but you're still going because you can't stop. So it was like
Exactly.
burnout on top of burnout, and I gained so much weight, and I didn't change my diet, so I knew it was strictly stress. And I also began taking it out on my family members, like my husband and my mom, and was just horrible to them. And, it was just a really poor way to manage everything that was going on in my life. So I decided to hire a personal trainer who trains me remotely. It's not in person, he's somewhere else. But I decided to start going to the gym. I hate working out. Like, I hate it. I don't want to do it. But I realized that I needed, in order for me to be able to show up for my job, I needed to start working out because of the effects that it would have on my mental health, but also physically sitting in front of a computer. Like I was starting to have pain like in my wrist and suffer some of the effects of like carpal tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And I even went to my doctor and he prescribed me like a cream and he asked me to like get a brace for it and like all these things. And after working out for a few months, those symptoms went away.
At
So
the end of
like,
the day, it's always stress, and stress will kill you. And the only thing that's going to help you is what you eat and working out. And I know because I've done it like 100 times over and over again. But this past week, I just started working out again. And I think this is why I'm up till midnight and I'm like banging out all this content because like I feel good again. Isn't it so
yeah,
crazy how it just completely changes you?
so crazy because again, I'm more of a lounger. Like I just don't like, activity more of, I'd rather be on a couch, like
Mm-hmm.
watching Netflix, than doing anything else in the world. So for me, working out is like the worst thing ever. But I became such a fan of it because I just took it at like, this is such an important part of my job. Like, if I do not do this, this affects how I show up to my job. So I
Exactly.
think that, by default, that falls into self care. So that is a non negotiable now. Even when I don't feel like it, I go to the gym. And the reason why I hired a trainer was because the transformation happens in a transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once
I
you make
love
that
that.
commitment, once you make that commitment and you're like paying money, you're not gonna flake on that person. I mean, and there's every week when I meet with him, like I don't want to go, but I just like I have to, like I'm paying this money, and I can't stand him up and waste his time. So like I have to show up. So that's why I show up. It's not even because I want to or because I know the benefits of it, because I can negotiate myself for to not work out so well. Like, so left up to my own devices, I would never work out. So I had to commit to something like that, both with money and with, making an agreement with someone in order for me to be able to show up to myself for myself, which is, uh, again, not ideal, but it's like real life. And that's who I am. I hate it. I don't like it. And,
I literally have that. I have on my, like, it's not really a vision board, it's like a quote board. And I just have like
yeah,
things that I need to read to myself every day, like to keep myself mindful and to serve others. One says, stop playing small, put in the work. And one is working out is a non negotiable! Exclamation point in neon green, post it front and center.
yeah, it really, and it doesn't matter how you feel about working out. And that's one of the things that I learned. Like, and again, I also realized how working out translates to real life. Like, my feelings about working out don't matter. Like, I need to show up, just like at work. Like, how I feel that day doesn't matter. Like, I have to show up, and when things get hard, like, and when a workout or a certain exercise is hard, I have to get through it just like I would in a real life situation. So when you start to look at, the similarities in like, exercising and like real life and your job, like it starts to, make a lot of sense. So it is a non negotiable. So whatever you have to do to trick yourself to show up, whether that's paying somebody, whether it's whatever you have to do it. That is such a non-negotiable. If you have your own business and you're an entrepreneur, working out and doing and like moving and having movement is like, I mean, it's almost like oxygen. Like it's so,
It
so
really
important.
is. Yeah.
Again, I did not know that. It's something I learned the hard way. So if you haven't had a work bottom yet, or like a burnout bottom yet, you don't have to get there. Just like sort of start
Start now.
doing these things. Yeah, start doing it and avoid it because, it's like I will never forget how horrible I felt that month. I'll never forget how gross that, like, even just thinking about it, like it was just the grossest feeling ever. How stressed out I was, how I was just eating junk, how I was just like, being so rude to everybody who loved me and who wanted to be there for me. But I couldn't even tell them how to be there for me because I was just reacting, I wasn't really helping myself in any way. So definitely, if you're not working out, start today.
You have to start today. Even if it's inside, do a couple little lunges.
Like, I am not like a fitness person, and like, so again, this comes from somebody who's like on team, like, I hate working out. So
when do you think your official, like, I chose this life moment has been? Like, when did that happen? What were you doing? Like, your aha moment, like, this is why I'm meant to be doing what I'm doing right now.
Well, something happened like at the beginning of this year. Like at the beginning of this year, I realized that because I run my business from home, because I don't need to get office space. One morning I woke up and I just looked around my apartment. I'm like, this is a business. This household is a business, and it needs to start being run that way. So that was one huge, shift that I had, that I needed to start approaching this household as a business because it's a business, right? So, and I needed to be reminded of that. So I sort of like, I didn't have an official office or anything like that in my house. I love working from my couch and just being super casual about it. But, I made changes with my furniture to set aside like an office space. So that was one of the things that I was like, this is a thing I'm doing, because again, when I first made the decision to go out on my own, not that it felt forced, but it felt like what I had to do at the time in order to pay my bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the only opportunity that was available. They were a freelance job, so I had to start this company. I didn't choose this. But the moment that I realized this household is a business and it needs to start running that way, I somewhat owned the fact that this was what I was doing. But then recently, as recent as like a couple of weeks ago, I chose this life this moment because of the fact that I realized how important the work that I'm doing is. Because again, this isn't about me, it's about the people that I get to serve. And when I talk about serving, yes, that could apply to my clients, but I'm in service to the people who are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of service to the people who are looking for resources and who are looking for help and who don't know who to turn to. So that's who I feel, I'm in service to now. And I can't, there's some really amazing stuff going on that I can't even talk about legally because I had to sign like an NDA, but there's some super cool stuff that I hope like we can do a follow-up episode so we can then talk about it. But there's some cool
Absolutely.
stuff that's happening around this crisis that we're going through, which is the addiction crisis, and some really amazing people who are doing some great work around those efforts this year. And again, I can't talk about it yet, but to be part of that and to have been brought in to collaborate with these giants is beyond words, something that I never thought would happen in my life, but that's happening. And I realized that this is what I'm supposed to show up to, not the things I thought I was doing this for, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
No,
Like,
absolutely it does. And I'm so excited that you're part of something like this because I've spent enough time in the ERs over the last couple of years and I've seen it with my own two eyes actually. The crisis that is happening because they end up in the ER. And I've seen it myself and it's just insane how I've seen it grow myself. So it's definitely something that needs to be taken care of. And you're definitely the type of person, personally and professionally, that needs to be a part of that to make it happen, I feel like. So they're so lucky to have you because you're amazing at what you do, but you're so passionate about helping who really needs the help,
Thank you. No, I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, like what has been really interesting is just that, again, these are all situations that kind of, I don't do a lot of marketing. And, for a long time, one of the things that I discovered in this journey of being an entrepreneur is that I love teaching, and that I've offered master classes in the past and I've done a couple of launches. I just don't have time to teach right now, like
Mm-hmm.
because of all the things I have going on. So, and then I also did explore, the coaching side and helping people come up with a strategy. But, I kind of was trying to like run away from like the management side and the strategy side and the day to day and like, addiction treatment. And I was trying to run away from all of that and start something else. Like I somewhat didn't, appreciate that in the way that I do today and appreciate the seriousness of that work. But I was kind of like trying to, find my place somewhere else. And I'm now back to how I started, which was, the management, just simply because I don't have time to do, to take on any coaching clients anymore. I don't have time to do any of my own launches anymore because of all the work that's going on. But I'm so grateful that that's the position that I'm in today, because again, it's something that I try to run away from for so long. So if you feel like you're in an industry or that you have like you keep getting a certain kind of client and you feel like you know that's not like cool, or like that you want to do something else just some because you don't feel like that, like you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like explore everything. Like if you want to teach. If you want to coach, right? Do it all appropriately and be ethical about it,
Mm-hmm.
but also like explore it so that way like, okay, well, I know I didn't like this, so in the end, I ended up liking the very thing that I was like trying to run away from. I choose set up all the other things. So by pursuing like other little things, I didn't know it at the time, and I didn't know it until very recently, that I'd be back sort of where I started and say, no, I choose to do this. And this is what I want to do. And this is what I'm really great at. And this is what I really love to do. Um, so yeah, I probably got like really carried away again with my answer. And I don't even remember.
You have the best
Like,
answers, though. Everybody
I'm
listening needs
sorry.
to
I feel like
hear.
I'm like totally going off topic, but yeah, no, it's just I feel like you have to follow your heart and you have to follow
Absolutely.
what that inner voice is telling you. And if it is to explore something that you haven't done before, explore it, do it. Even if it doesn't work out, like either like it didn't work out because you didn't like it or you don't want to do it anymore, but at least and like how much work it's going to take to really make it happen or whatever. Just don't be afraid to go for that. And I don't know, like if things will change and I will launch something and teach again or do a master class or do whatever. But I did feel at one point, the pressure to somewhat show everyone else all the stuff that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and market and be visible and this and
It's a
that.
lot of pressure because
Yeah.
showing up for your damn Instagram stories is exhausting.
Oh my god, I just can't like, yeah, like, and again, the fact that like my job is to do that for like a handful of people, and then by the
Mm-hmm.
time I get to mine, like that's the last thing I want to do, so
Exactly.
it's a lot of pressure. And then you start to see other people in this space that you love and admire, no shade at all, but like you start to see other people posting what they're doing, whatever, and you're like, man, like I haven't marketed myself, or I haven't said anything about myself or my services in like weeks and whatever. But it's like the truth is that I'm working,
Yeah.
like but I will say that, I need to create a good balance, because I also don't want to get into the situation that then when I'm not busy, I have to react and market from scratch, So
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's something to be said about, okay, it's cool to stay busy, but also finding the balance that's right for me to also remain visible, so that if a time should come where I'm looking for clients, that I'm not having to start from scratch and everybody's like, where did this person come from,
It's so funny you
so
just said that because one of my clients, I produce her podcast and she just had a baby. and she works from home right now, and she's trying to find that balance. So no matter where you are in your career, there's always a constant struggle of balance, especially for us that work, like for us women that work online. It's either you're slammed with work, or you have to consistently outsource or consistently show up online, or, do Facebook Lives and handle your social media and then handle your clients. Like, we wear a lot of hats, and you just have to make sure it is about the balance. And sometimes it, takes a while to find it. And I mean, I know it took me a long time to find it.
Yeah, and I mean, I still don't have the balance, but I think at the end of the day, it's like, just doing your best each day. Like,
Exactly.
And being nicer to ourselves and not putting so much, like, we're doing better than we think we are,
Mm-hmm.
and we're really good at putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. We're really good at comparing ourselves to a lot of people, but we're not good at giving ourselves credit when credit is due, and I think
That's
like
so
if we do
true.
our best, try to, aim for that balance or to just a little bit. That even your awareness of the fact that you need to create a balance is a thing, and something you should be like, okay, at least I'm doing that, so yeah, that's really important, just to sort of
Balance needs to be like our middle name.
I know. Well, I'm a Libra, so technically it's like a thing for me for sure. Just with the scales and balance is just a lot bigger than just a goal. It's like
Yeah.
part of my DNA, and if I'm not, like it's sort of. But it's really easy to get caught up and just to not have balance and to be, and I'm an extremist, like I'm very, it's very hard for me to be like in the middle about anything. Like I'm either really into something or I'm not into it. I may be lukewarm about something, but for the most part I'm an extremist, and
I'm the same.
it's really easy for me to not be in balance. But I think one of the biggest things is being nicer to ourselves and also not acting out of fear, whether that is fear of not being visible, whether that's not, that's fear of like not having clients, whatever the fear is, just don't. Because I mean, it's healthy to have a healthy fear, but you know how it is. Like anytime we start really getting paranoid about something, we're gonna like bring it into our lives. So the moment that you let it go, even if you're not sure how you're going to get that next check, but the moment that you're like, yo, I'm going to trust like the universe or whatever you believe in and go for that, that's the minute that you're going to see results. So just don't, if it's fear of balance or whatever, like just make sure that like again it's coming from a place of love towards yourself and compassion.
I love that. Thank you so much for being on this show. Like, you're definitely going to be on again for sure, but you just shared so much information and knowledge and expertise and insight into so many different aspects of working online and how we should run our business and just everything in general that I know everybody will appreciate. I love you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Of course, I want you to share, what's coming up for you next. Where can we find you online? I'm going to have all these links in the show notes. So for those of you listening, when you're done, head on over and to the show notes and then click those links and give Veronica a follow. Let her know that you came from the show. But what would you like to share with us now? Something exciting, maybe? We're going to meet up in person?
Yes, something really exciting that's coming up is I'm going to be at Social Media Marketing World, which for those of you that may not know or be familiar with Social Media Examiner, which is only like the biggest blog on
Ever.
social media marketing. Like they have their yearly conference, and I'm going to be working at the conference this year. So I'm really excited to be there in San Diego, March 18th through I think 22nd, and I get to meet you. So I'm super stoked about that. And the biggest thing I have going on right now, I can't talk about because of the non-disclosure.
I know.
I so wish and I'm so excited about it, and it's like a dream come true. But hopefully, in the follow-up episode, we will. But people can find me on Instagram at Amarante Vero, which is like Veronica cut in half, and Amarante. You'll have it in the show notes and all that stuff, so I won't spell it in for you. But I also have my Facebook group, which is where I sort of, give tips and so if you're interested in getting social media tips or learning a little bit more about, social media news, that's, kind of like my go-to place where I drop some of that knowledge. I also do that on Instagram, but for those of you that are interested in like seeing more content, and I do want to get back to my lives. I was doing a lot of Facebook lives last year and doing, like my weekly or semi-weekly lives with like different topics on social media. It's just like, again, I've been like so slammed, but hopefully I can get back into that sooner than later so that.
And those are good. You've got some good episodes. You guys, you have to check them out. Scroll through her feed and check out the latest ones that she has. They're so good.
Thank you so much. No, I usually, and I need to have you on there because one of the topics I have not touched on has been, podcasting, and you're my go-to for that. But yeah, no, I usually try to have somebody on who I adore and who also knows something, who's an expert at something. And I just love having conversations just like you with other professionals about, specific topic and what's working for them. And that's sort of like the idea behind the lives. So, hopefully you guys can check that out.
Yay! Thank you so much for being on today's show. I appreciate it, and I will see you in San Diego so soon.
Yes. No, thank you so much for having me on. And for those of you tuned in, thank you so much for listening and for listening to my long answers.
They love your long answers just as much as I do. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone who you feel needs to hear this message. And don't forget to tag me at The Happy Workaholic on Facebook and Instagram so I can feature you on my stories. And if you have 2 minutes and listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I would love it if you could leave me a review. Those messages mean so much to us podcasters, and they really help me create more of the content that you'll love. Want to continue today's conversation? It's simple. Head to Facebook and search for the Happy Workaholic Network Facebook group. Answer the questions and you're in. For more information on myself, coaching programs, weekly newsletter, and more, visit thehappyworkaholic.com. The Happy Workaholic Podcast is part of the iHeartRadio Podcast Network. Be sure to follow the Happy Workaholic Podcast on iHeartRadio or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. I hope that your day continues to be happy, healthy, positive, and productive, and I'll talk to you again soon.